From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Lehman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Tuesday night on News Channel 5 Plus. Man, do we have a lot of football to talk about this week. Week 1 of college finally in the books. It started Thursday night on West End and on Rocky Top and continued throughout the weekend. Big matchups on Saturday. A Sunday night football double overtime thriller between Notre Dame and Texas, and it wrapped up last night with Ole Miss jumping to a lead against Florida State and the Seminoles storming back in the second half behind freshman quarterback DeAndre Francois and taking that game. It is our first real taste of college football. A lot of impressions from that we will get to throughout the program tonight. And you, of course, have the opportunity to chime in. 737-7767. Concerns about the Vols. How alarming was that performance against Appalachian State to you? Josh Dobbs, not very effective at the quarterback position. The running game unable to get going in the way that they wanted it to go. But Tennessee was able to pull the game out in the end. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt jumps to a 10-0 lead against South Carolina. Then they take Kyle Shermer out of the game. In my mind, inexplicably, Derek Mason has said after the game and kind of repeated himself today that was the game plan, to get Wade Freebeck in there and give him some reps in case he has to go in there at some point. But this is an SEC game. This is a massive opener to the season, and Shermer just led you 67 yards for a touchdown. The Carolina defense had been on the field a lot at that point of the game. Why would you not leave him in there and see where it goes? Vanderbilt didn't, and even though Shermer came back in 2 series later, the offense never was able to recover. Final 10 possessions of the game, they did not score. And South Carolina storms back with 13 unanswered points to win. Brent Stockstill puts up record numbers in a blowout of Alabama A&M by Middle Tennessee. TSU romps in the John Merritt Classic once again. A great start for those Big Blue Tigers. And so much to talk about around the country as well. Alabama extremely impressive against USC. On a weekend when the SEC largely flopped. Let's be honest, it was not a good weekend for a league that is so proud with everything that is accomplished in all the national championships. Worst non-conference weekend by the SEC since 1992. 1992. And a big part of it is the lack of quarterback play throughout the conference. Other than Alabama, who, by the way, did it with a true freshman for the most part in Jalen Hurts. Other than Alabama, Texas A&M and Georgia are really the only other 2 performances from the first week that make you sit back and think, all right, that was a really good win for the SEC. Texas A&M, of course, knocked off UCLA to move into the top 25 today. And Georgia, in a matchup of ranked teams in Atlanta, knocked off North Carolina, who last year was the runner-up to Clemson in the ACC championship game. Good wins there. But a lot of disappointment throughout the SEC. Missouri, Kentucky falling apart in the second half. Ole Miss falling apart in the second half, albeit against a very good opponent. Arkansas struggling. Mississippi State losing to South Alabama at home. Auburn lost. Florida struggled. South Carolina wins, but in an ugly game against Vanderbilt. Obviously, Tennessee getting a challenge against Appalachian State. Your thoughts on the weekend that was in college football. 737-7767. And of course, we can talk some Titans tonight. The season opener coming up on Sunday. We are finally to the regular season kickoff just after noon over at Nissan Stadium against the Minnesota Vikings. Still a question on who will be the quarterback for the Vikes in that game. Sam Bradford acquired over the weekend in a trade after the Vikings found out last week that Teddy Bridgewater will be out for the season with that broken leg and torn ACL. The question now is, can Bradford get ready quick enough to be the starter on Sunday? Sean Hill today was listed on the team's official depth chart as the number one quarterback. Now, we talked to several Titans about that yesterday, and they said, look, when you trade for a guy like Bradford, who's been in the league this long, he's going to be ready to go. Now, maybe it won't be the full complement of the offense or whatever, but he's going to be ready to go on Sunday. So if they want him to be the guy, which you would think they do after giving up a number one draft pick to the Eagles in this trade, Sam Bradford's going to be out there this weekend. The biggest thing for the Titans, though, and they keep saying this, is they've got us out number 28, Adrian Peterson. Probably the best running back in the NFL. That's going to be the focus of this defense, regardless of who's taking snaps in purple on Sunday. Lots of other topics to talk about in the NFL as well. Quarterback issues seem to be kind of a trend. No Tom Brady to start this year. No Peyton Manning to start this year. No Tony Romo to start this year. A lot of interesting quarterback decisions in places where there's been stability and, frankly, stars for a long time now. How will that change the outlook of the NFL this year? And what do you make of this Titans roster? It's obviously new look. And we talked to Jason McCourty the other day and said, look, Jason, every year guys say, this is a new year, this is a new team, things are going to be different. But there really is a feeling around this team that it is different. There's 23 new faces on this roster this year for the Titans compared to last year. 23 of 53. That's almost 40% of the roster completely turned over from last year. John Robinson's in. Mike Mularkey's in. The feeling is that this team is going to be different. McCourty echoed those sentiments, but he also said, look, we realize we haven't really accomplished anything. We've got to get out there and do something when it counts. And that starts this weekend. Of those additions and those new faces, who are the guys you are most looking forward to seeing? I want to hear from you tonight. 737-7767. Titans also brought back Mark Mariani yesterday. Signed him to be the returner on this team. Trey McBride then sent to the practice squad today after losing his spot on the active roster. They are making over this Titans team. And they're hoping they'll have big results. In the preseason, 3-1. We'll see what kind of momentum can carry over to the regular season after a performance like that. Again, phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767. We want to hear from you, and we will begin tonight from Jay. Jay, good evening. You're first up tonight.
What a weekend of football, man.
It was awesome. Let's do that again.
Hey, I thought Houston was very impressive. And what do you think about them in the Big 12 eventually? I know they're pushing hard for it. And also Vanderbilt. I think Derek Mason, I think it's time to go because ever since that Temple game, they cannot leave quarterbacks alone. And I was just wondering, I think there's going to be a lot of coaches changes in the SEC, and I think Les Miles will be one of them. I just don't understand how LSU's got all the talent and all the good recruiting, and they can't get a quarterback. And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
That's been the mystery about LSU for a long time, Jay, and because you're right. That team's loaded, and they returned 92% of their starters from last year. This is a team that's back, and it's talented. But they don't have a quarterback. Brandon Harris could not get the job done Saturday against Wisconsin. And because of that, I don't know how you're confident that LSU is going to turn it around. I thought coming into the year that LSU was probably the best team in the SEC West because I thought Harris, with all those guys returning, would be able to beat Alabama and likely a freshman quarterback. And it turns out on week one, that freshman quarterback for Alabama was really, really good. And Harris, who's been a 3-year starter at LSU, was terrible. Go figure that one out. But it's hard to look at LSU and think that they're a title contender after what you saw this weekend. Got to make the biggest improvement from game 1 to game 2. They better make a huge improvement at LSU. And I think you're right. I mean, Les Miles was brought back because of everything he brought back. And so this was supposed to be a team that didn't just save his job. This was supposed to be a team that competed for championships this year. And to go out and lose in week 1 against Wisconsin. And I think the Badgers are solid. I think they're a good team. But they're not a top 10 team. I know that's where they're ranked this week off of one game by beating LSU. But Wisconsin's not going to be a top 10 team at the end of the year. They're probably a borderline top 25 team, in my opinion. So to go up there and lose when you had all that on the line, man, that is a rough start for LSU. Derek Mason, a little bit of a similar situation. His team did not have the same level of expectations, but you felt like things were finally going in the right direction. Like there was a clear plan there. He had picked his starting quarterback. He spent all summer saying, Kyle Shermer's our guy. He's number 1. Wade Freebeck's number 2. There's no quarterback controversy here at all. Then Shermer goes out and gets you 10 points in 3 possessions. And while he wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire, one of those was directly aided by a South Carolina fumble, he was weaning you the football game at that point. And all of a sudden, it's like they outthink themselves. I know it was part of the game plan, but you're backed up. You're controlling the game at this point. And they make the switch to Freebeck. I just don't get it. You can do that in the NFL preseason. That's where you're allowed to make moves like that. All right, the starter's doing fine. We're up 10-0. Let's bring in the second string. Wade, you're in there. You can do that in the preseason. You cannot do that in an SEC game that you have to win. Every possession counts. Vanderbilt had 13 possessions. 13 possessions in the game against South Carolina. 2 of them they just gave to the backup quarterback. They lost by 3. What makes you think you can just start practicing in the middle of the second quarter and get the second team quarterback some reps just because he's going to need it? You know when you do that in college football is when you're up huge and it's the fourth quarter or the second half. One of these non-conference games, if Vanderbilt gets a big lead, put Wade Freebeck in there and let him get some snaps. But don't do it in the second quarter of a tight game when you have a young quarterback in Shermer who's just getting some confidence and starting to play well, just led you on a touchdown drive, and now you send him to the sideline for a half an hour in real time. And then you expect him to walk back in there and just be good? Doesn't happen like that. It shouldn't happen like that. And after the game, they said, look, this isn't an issue. This was part of the plan. That's not why we lost. I'm not positive it's not why we lost or why Vanderbilt lost. Obviously, other things played into it. But look, if you're Vanderbilt, don't you want to see how things play out if your guy, if your starter plays the entire game? And Derek Mason said it's not an issue. The quarterback thing is not an issue except for all you guys in the media bringing it up. We're only bringing it up because of the move you made. If you don't play Wade Freebeck there, it's not a question that gets answered or gets asked that you have to answer. You put him in the game when you're winning 10-0 and then the offense never scores again. You better believe that's a question that's going to get asked. And so, yeah, I don't think he's on the hot seat right now necessarily, but that was a big game for Vanderbilt to win at the start of the season, and they didn't. So now that faith that things are going in the right direction and that he's got the control of these things wanes a little bit. And we'll see what happens. You got a tough assignment against Middle Tennessee this weekend. Better win that one or the hot seat really starts to warm up at that point. And Jay mentioned Houston as well. They were mighty impressive. I don't know how many people saw that because it was the 11 a.m. game against Oklahoma on Saturday. The Sooners once again fell flat in a big opportunity. Big game Bob continues to be kind of a more of a mocking thing in recent years than it is a statement about what Bob Stoops has been able to do in big games. But I think more than anything, that was a testament to how good this Houston team is. Greg Ward is solid. They play decent defense. Tom Herman has made that team good. Anybody who thought that 13-1 last year was a fluke or a flash in the pan, you got another thing coming. Houston's last 2 games, they've beaten Florida State and Oklahoma on neutral fields. And in both cases, they were clearly the better team. It wasn't winning on a last-second field goal or something like that, or because of a bunch of turnovers or what have you. They were just the better team in both cases. So watch out for Houston, because in the American, they're not going to get tested very much. One big game left against Louisville later on in November. So if they continue to play the way that they played on Saturday, Houston could be somebody to look out for as perhaps a spoiler to get into the college football playoff, because they got that big marquee win over Oklahoma already on the resume. All right, we got to take a break. Our phone lines are open. We got a couple callers there. Hang on with us. We will get to you as soon as we get done from this break. More lines open for you as well. 737-7767 is the number. We are talking football, college, at the start of the NFL season. This is SportsLine on News Channel 5+.